on the way to his recovery. Again, recovery is going to be from as uh, listed before, 4 to 6 months. We're going to miss him, but we'll see him soon and wish him well, obviously, in his recovery. Uh, Circling back to trade deadline, it was pretty busy couple days. Just you know, getting calls, from around the league. It's exciting time for our league and front offices, but at the same time, it was pretty much a buyer's market, and all of us we wanted to be competitive, uh, and I thought that it's a telling thing how I feel about this team and about the players on this team. What we've been watching all season long is a very competitive and gritty group. We wanted this group to be cohesive and start playing for each other. We've seen signs in the last 30, 31 games. Last time with a few of you, I spoke when we were 4-15. I was not very happy. I'm much happier now. Would like to smile more, but again, it's this team is very competitive in every game, and we have aspirations to compete for playoffs in such a conference with parity, and each team is trying to get an edge. So I'm looking forward to watch these players compete with 30 games to go. A lot of positive signs I've seen during the season. Obviously, emergence of Kobe. Kobe's on a different planet right now. The way he's playing, I would vote for most improved player. Io improved, and he's competing on a very high level. Obviously, DeMar has been our vet that leads this group, and he's our closer. Vooch has been our constant double-double machine and contributing to winning. And obviously, AC, everything that he does on the floor is just making winning plays. Obviously, Drum, he's been fantastic this year. Would that be in the starting lineup? Would that be coming off the bench? He's been producing amazing. And just emergence of our like young guys, Julian and Dalen are getting some rotational minutes. I forgot to mention Pat, who's obviously injured right now, but he's got better. He was on a tear in the month of December, averaging 14 points. Io actually was on a tear in January, where he posted 54% from a floor and 46 from a three and 90 from a free throw line. I just think that there's so many positive stories around this team. And the biggest thing for me is like, if, you look at every option it's out there to improve your team, and we didn't see anything that was going to make us better. We would take a step back, which we don't want. We want to stay competitive. We have obligation to this organization and this fan base and this city to stay competitive and compete for playoffs. And that's what we're doing. I'm open to questions now.
Joe, why don't you get us started?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Artūras, I know you're talking about the competitive thing and you like what you've seen, but
Mhm.
at the end of the day, this is a what have you done for me lately business, and you can be competitive for a quarter or 2 or 3 quarters, but your record is your record. And this group has shown an inability to be in that upper echelon of teams in the East. So it seems like you're chasing something that really isn't there. Can you explain that in a little more detail of what you're seeing that the standings aren't?
Well, the standings are that everybody's bunched up. Like I mean, I'm looking at the same standings, right? You're three wins away from sixth place. So it's, you still have 30 games to go. As a competitor, obviously this group is playing better last 2 months. And again, I put faith in this group to make a push for playoffs.
Julia?
Here, Artūras, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned that you didn't see anything that you liked on the market. What were you primarily looking for? Was it players? Was it picks? Kind of what was that that search like for you guys in the last few days?
I think, you always look to improve your team. And those scenarios were not coming up. And, we spent obviously a couple of days over, with our group, and we decided to, to stay with this group because that gives us best chance to compete this year, and going into the summer, we could, we obviously this year we control our pick. We have, a lot of our young guys that took a step forward, so we're excited about that. And the combination, I think, with our vets that we have right now, I think it's a pretty good formula. Injuries are part of our game, and it's not an excuse. But if we look around the league, the teams that are successful right now are the ones that are staying healthy. And we have numerous injuries right now on our roster, and we miss those players. We're much better with them.
Casey Johnson, go ahead.
Hey, Artūras, where would you kind of assess where the organization's relationship is with Zach, given how public his situation got since early November? And how much, especially with a third surgery now on his resume, how much of a burden do you think that contract will be moving forward?
I think we have great relationship with Zach, great relationship with his representation and Rich Paul. I think we always work together. And I think his thoughts are always about the team, and he's trying to win, and trying to win when he's healthy. Unfortunately, right now he's going to have to wait till he gets healthy, but we are better with Zach on the team.
Cody Westerland, go ahead.
Hey, AK, you've made one trade since August 2021. Just how do you respond to the criticism that you might overvalue your own talent, and that you aren't aggressive enough in making moves on that front?
Well, I think, what we did in 2021, the summer when we turned our roster around, I think we showed that we can be aggressive. In this particular moment, we didn't see, especially at this trade deadline, and the market changes all the time, is when every team or most of the teams in the league are trying to win. It's a buyer's market, and we are trying to stay competitive, and try not to take a step back. And so you're looking at all the options on the table, and we didn't see anything that can improve our team.
Just a real quick follow-up. What's wrong with taking a small step back if it makes you better at the start of next season's tip-off?
Again, it's a subjective way of looking at things. It just depends on what was on the table, right? So at this juncture, I'm always going to look at how to improve the team for now that makes us more competitive, and for the future. And we didn't have those options available.
Darnell Mayberry.
Hi, Artūras, can you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. There's a lot of fans who are not happy with you, and there are a segment of fans that's talking about boycotting the team. I'm not sure if you're aware of that criticism that so many are talking about, but another school of thought is that you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do, which is field a competitive team fans can root for, not the best, but not the worst. Do you feel like you're accomplishing what your bosses expect of you?
I think so. I mean, I think I mean, since I came here to Chicago, I think I wanted to have competitive team, which I think we came up with a formula in 2021. We have somewhat of a success. Took a obviously step back with some injuries, but my objective doesn't change. I would like to compete, and I'd like to compete with the best teams. This particular team showed that they can compete with the best, and that's what I'm excited about. You know, going with 30 games to go. Any adjustments in the future that we have to make, again, I'm very positive about that as well. You know, like I said, you know, we control our pick this year, and you know, and then going into the free agency, I think we're pretty positive.
And just one quick follow-up, Artūras. What are you selling the fans at this point? I mean, you keep saying competitive, but what are you selling to the fans?
I'm selling competitive group that is competing right now for playoffs, and that's just evidence. And you know, you were bringing up the standings. I mean, we're all bunched up in that area in the middle. So that's, you know, that's what I see with this team at this point. Any adjustments will be made in the future, but you know, this group is really good.
Thank you.
Will Gottlieb, go ahead.
Hey, Artūras. I'm curious, obviously you've said that, you know, taking a step back was not really on your radar at all, but if you decided that that was an approach that you might want to take, would ownership be in support of that?
Yes, ownership is supporting me, whatever we decide, and you know, moving forward, whatever we decide to do with this team. But competitive team in the Eastern Conference is what we're trying to accomplish, and you know, with 30 games to go, we are looking forward to try to make playoffs.
Mike McGraw.
Hey, Artūras. You know, obviously in mid-November, you know, that report came out that you and Zach were open to a trade. The next couple of weeks, the team played really poorly. Are there concerns with you going forward about whether Zach wants to be here?
I don't have any concerns. I think Zach wants to win, and bottom line, we're a better team with Zach on the team. It's just simple as that.
Jamal.
Hey, Artūras. I just kind of wanted to ask you about the, you know, you kind of mentioned about being competitive, and you know, obviously the standings you said are bunched up, but you guys are in ninth place currently. You were in the play-in tournament last year. Just kind of curious, like, you know, you guys tried to do a lot of things internally to improve, to change your shot profile, and at this point, the season are basically in a similar spot as you were last year. Do you feel like you need to get out to move up in the standings to change things here at some point, or at what point, you know, do you feel a shakeup would be necessary to sort of actually break out of that roster when you found yourself in a similar situation?
I think the shakeup doesn't guarantee you success, right? And you know, the names, you know, like the words like rebuilds and all this stuff is thrown around. I think this group gives you the best chance to compete. You know, and although it doesn't guarantee success, we're a competitive, you know, bunch with players. I think the most positive thing for me is that, you know, where we didn't see last year is that, you know, our young players are developing and they taking a step forward, because they're like, you know, they're the ones that are making plays at the end, you know, from Kobe to Ayo to Pat, and you know, and like I said, you know, we have good combination of vets from Vooch to DeMar to AC right now to and Drum to make a push.
Marshall, go ahead.
All right, Tristan. I just wanted to clarify something you said, because you talked about being competitive. I just want to know what that meant, because as you said, you're in the same situation we were in last year, play-in territory, 4.5 games to get to the 6th spot right now against an NBA Indiana team that's holding down that spot right now. Do you feel like the 31 games is enough time to get to the playoff field, or were you just saying maybe to get through the play-in tournament to the playoffs?
I do. I don't know what the final result is going to be. Is that play in, or it's going to be in the playoffs? That's what we're going for. We're going for the playoffs. Would we end up being a play in, or straight out as a playoff team? We'll see. But this is what the group objective is right now, is to make to the playoffs.
And I just want to follow up. I know this time last year, you were very outspoken about wanting to bring Vooch back, and that was part of your planning. You executed that in the offseason. Do you still have the same feeling about DeMar DeRozan and extending him past this year, obviously keeping him at the trade deadline?
Yes, I mean, I love DeMar. He's huge for this team, for the city, for this organization. Has been great for our young guys. Has been our closer. So I think is wonderful for this team, and hopefully when time comes, we have a chance to keep him.
Joe, before we get to you, we're just going to take the rest of the questions with the hands raised and then cut it off. Joe, go ahead.
I'm no capologist by any means, but knowing what I know, how can you fit keeping Zach? And we know that you've talked about, yes, you can spend over the luxury tax, but yet the Reinsdorfs have been very transparent that they will do that for a championship level team, and this team is not a championship level team. So how are you going to justify keeping everything intact, but having the money to extend DeMar and take care of Pat Williams? And I mean, I don't see how the money's adding up unless I'm missing something.
I think those conversations are at the end of the season. I think right now our focus is about how we can finish the season, and get into the playoffs. The cap, we call it gymnastics. We can talk about it, after the season. I think by keeping those guys and staying competitive, that's what our objective is.
And then just one more follow-up. I know you keep using the word competitive, and the debate in all of this is what is deemed competitive. I mean, one playoff win in 2.5 seasons is not competitive. That's very mediocre. How do you sell to the fan base that you guys aren't mediocre, you are competitive? And I mean, you can say you've had some big regular season wins, but Charlotte could say, any team could say that. I mean, how are you going to sell this, that this is competitive and not mediocrity?
I think we can comment on that in 30 games, right? It's a result-driven business. I get it, and I'll take responsibility for failures. I think, but at this point, it's very early to say what is success, what's not successful. So, I mean, we have 30 games to go. We'll see what this team can do.
Julia?
Artūras, kind of a similar question. Just the precedent of going 3 trade deadlines without making a move. That's one of the areas that's really drawing a lot of ire from fans right now. So how do you make that pitch? Like, what is your pitch that this is not inaction, but it's purposeful? Like it's not swinging and missing, but it's a choice.
It's always purposeful. I think a trade deadline, usually, those moves don't make you better, right? So last year we were 14-9 going after the trade deadline, and that was one of the best records, right? So how do you improve even better at trade deadline? It's very hard to do. And the options that were on the table, like I said, we were taking a step back, which we obviously have no intentions to do so.
We're going to jump to Andy Seligman.
Hey, Artūras, can you just lay out just what your vision is for this team when it comes to a path towards the top of the Eastern Conference and being a championship caliber team?
Well, the vision this year is making a push for the playoffs, right? And then, depends on the result and, evaluating individual players. Then you're going to go through the draft. You're going to go through free agency. I think, that's the sequence. But every season we're going to take, we want to be competitive, and especially now with parity in the East. So we're going to compete, and then we're going to make adjustments at the end of the year.
Casey Johnson, you're going to close this out.
I know you can't predict the future, Artūras, but part of your job is to balance short term with long term. And kind of on top of Joe's salary cap question, are you guys expecting Lonzo Ball to be playing next season? Because that's going to be a huge part to your cap calculations this summer.
Yes.
And I have a follow-up, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, that's in a perfect world, right? We can see Zoe back on a basketball court, and he's working extremely hard right now. So hopefully that happens, and that's a reality.
Okay. And then you made it pretty clear that you want to stay competitive and you want to take a step back. But I'm curious, you obviously have the final say, but you also have a staff that works for you. Was there much internal debate about the direction of the franchise? And were there some people advocating to become sellers and maybe start the next roster iteration?
I think when we came here, Bulls missed 5 years in a row. They weren't in the playoffs. So I think those thoughts in mind, I think we all have these conversations internally. But at the end of the day, I think our group, believes in this team, and we'll see what they can do in the last 30 games.
Thanks so much for your time, Artūras.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.